Hi folks, this was a Mountfield lawnmower that Gary took apart weeks and weeks ago, and obviously he can't come around and put it back together. I thought I'd have a go at whacking it back together for him. We've got to sort the engine out as well, give that a service, give it a clean up and all that, and hopefully get this thing back in one piece today. See you in a minute. Right, well, as I said before, this is a self-drive Mountfield lawnmower. We did paint the deck on it. It's not a perfect job, but again, it's loads more tidy than what it was. And the wheels are back on it. The self-drive cable's been connected up. So let's go and have a look at the engine before I put the engine on, obviously, because that's got to be looked at. He hasn't touched the engine at all. Right, so here it is. I think he did say that the pull cord on this was very, very short. They probably want to be about 6 foot long. And I think I've got enough pull cord to do this. I'm a bit low on pull cord, look. That's all I've got left on that. I used a 3.5mm pull cord. I've got this on my Amazon wish list if anyone wanted to get me some, but if not, I'll have to buy some myself. There's probably enough to do this mower, and then I'll obviously be out. So what we've got here is the older overhead valve engine. I'm going to probably take the carb off. It wants a bit of a clean down. It's a bit dirty. Is he taking the fuel tank off? Yeah, the fuel tank's just sitting on there. He did coat this up, but again, it's been sitting in dust. We do these with the Revive It product. Pledge Revive It, we paint that on and it brings the shine back to them. So I'll just put that over there for the minute. Looking around it, it's an SV200, as we probably already know. And yeah, it's a bit grimy, so I'm going to give it a bit of a wipe down first of all with some old stale fuel that I've saved from the fuel tank there, which I've just give it second coat of Smooth Right paint. I'm doing this side first, and then I'll flip it over obviously and do the other side, but you can see that in a dedicated video I've got on the Triumph Acclaim restoration. So there's some old fuel salvaged, and I'll just take this engine outside now and I'll give it an agitation with a brush, clean it all down, and then I'll blow it off with the air gun. I'll put you on a bit of time lapse for that. You don't want to see that sort of thing fast. And then it makes it a whole lot easier to handle. And this is that handy little lawnmower engine jig which one of my subscribers made up, John Oliver. Thank you very much, John. And as you can see, it makes handling these engines so much easier because you've also got the spindle that comes through the middle there, and you can never get them sitting correctly on the tabletop. So yeah, just a bit of a deck in there and a little bit of a OSB board or plywood if you want to make one of them up yourself. You'll find it very handy. Oh, right, okay. Always get well protected up when you're spraying fumes about or bits of dust or whatever. Let's put that to one side. Right, let's have a look at this carb. I'm leaving it outside just for a minute, just to give me a bit more space here. Let's have a closer look at this carb. Right, common carb. This, I don't know, obviously, how long this has been standing. It's got a heat shield on the back there, which we'll take off. That can probably be, I'll probably straighten it out. That needs to be scraped off with a scraper or a blade. Again, you never know when these things are left standing. You never know how long they've been standing, or indeed if they've been dry stored. This one probably hasn't. So it's always best to do a carb service. It doesn't take long. There's not much to these carbs whatsoever, so just a few simple things, and all you need is a basic toolkit. Right, so I've got a little socket set here. The nut on the bottom is always 10mm on these types. That's for draining the float bowl out. That one, you probably know that anyway. That one's the one we want to take the float bowl off. Give that a crack. And again, like anything, what you should do really is, if I was just going to look at the jets and inspect this, I would clean this all off on the outside. But because this is going to probably go in the ultrasonic cleaner, I'm leaving it as it is. So bear with me. Let me go and get my tray. Right, so this is the tray I've got with my new mini oven, and it's handy for working on carbs. So let's just get this out. Washer on the bottom there. There we go. And as you can probably see, although we did start this up and he said it run, look at the crap inside there. Look. Absolutely unbelievable. And you've got a main jet in there, so there's no chance of that sucking up any fuel with all that rubbish in there. Look at that, look. He said it run. I don't know. That's bone dry to me. I don't look like it's run at all. Whether the chap told him it run or what, I don't know. But again, as normal, you can't always go by what people tell you. That's why you've really got to go through the procedure of stripping stuff down like I'm doing here. Take the pin out, as we well know. That means you lift the float out and also the little needle valve underneath. And as I've said many a time, if you've got a little rubber-ended point on there, that means that you'll have a brass insert in there, and the rubber is the thing that actually creates the seal. If that little triangle point is brass, then there'll probably be a little rubber O-ring, or there should be a little rubber O-ring in there. And it's very easy to miss that and blow when you're blowing the carburetor out, to actually blow that little O-ring out. So if you've got a brass end, look out for your little O-ring in there. Right, so again, we've got a jet in there. I'm going to take that O-ring out. Hold on, bear with me. Just pick that O-ring out, because if I'm putting this in the ultrasonic cleaner, what tends to happen is that these increase in size. So that feels a bit stiff. I don't know if I've got any more of them. I'll have to have a look. If not, we've got to reuse it. So under your throttle stop screw, let's just take that out for a minute. You've got your pilot jet. Now your pilot jet on this type of carb is literally just pushed in, depending on what you've got, what carb you've got. Some of them have like a Phillips screw cap on there and the jet's underneath, but this one, your pilot jet, just lifts out. Be careful because it can snap. And as you can probably see there, taking this out, there's a little fine jet in there, so if you've got any issues at all with surging at low speed, this is probably your culprit. Now, what you need to do is to, 9 times out of 10, with old engines, when they wear in, you need a bit more fuel, and what you can do is actually drill them out and get them to a slightly bigger size, and that allows more fuel at sort of low engine speed sort of thing. So if you've got surging at low engine speed, the problem is going to be with your pilot jet in most cases. In a lot of the other cases, as you know, under your main jet, let's just take that out. Your emulsion tube is basically for drawing in fuel at higher up the rev range, and you need to take this out. Some people say they can't get them out, but you have to get them out. And if you've got hunting or fuel starvation at the higher end of the rev range, the chances are that some of these little jets are going to be blocked. This is for low speed pilot jet. This is your main jet there with your main jet emulsion tube. That lets the fuel through there, as you can probably see, and then depending on how much demand is on the engine, depends on how many of these holes are flooded with fuel. And if they're blocked, let's say half of them are blocked, for example, you ain't going to get the full fuel delivery going to your engine, hence fuel starvation. Right, okay, that's that. Right, and I like to put a drop of the thinners in my solution. Don't want to go too mad with it, but I find thinners is the best for cutting through the lack of build-up that you get with carburetors in the small holes and stuff like that. And I find that thinners does a great job of cutting through that in a nice hot water solution. So let's drop that in there. Let's drop our float bowl in there. What I tend to do is take a drop of the liquor or the fluid out of there. That's hot, don't forget, and it's got the thinners in it as well. And all your small items like the bolts and the jets and stuff, normally that would fall through, I tend to put them in there in the cup just to keep them separated. And I literally just let that sit in there, and you'll find that it will float. So that's our setup there. The water's nice and hot. It's probably about 60 degrees. Let me turn it on. Right, the actual temperature at the moment is 72, 73 degrees. It's set for 5 minutes. For some reason my timer switch ain't working anymore, but I'm going to turn it on, and you watch that should start to go to work straight away to cut the thinners in. That will cut through straight away, and you should see some action. There you go. Look at that. Even in the cup as well, look. And that is the ultrasonic cleaner doing its work. Now, I don't know whether you can still hear me or not, but an ultrasonic cleaner works in a way, although it vibrates, it's not like a sander, for example. I've heard people try to make their own ones with an orbital sander and bolt a container onto that. This is ultrasonic, which really vibrates at a really fast speed and literally shatters the earth, dirt and debris off of the carbs, where normal sanders and things like that, where people make their own, they're not vibrating fast enough. You need the ultrasonic waves going through to actually penetrate and actually destroy all the little bits of dirt and lacquer build up. And that's why I also put thinners in there as well, because that helps cut through the thinners. So we're going to leave that now. I'll probably have that on for about 15 or so minutes, and then we'll have a look at it. So I'm going to have a cup of tea and I'll see you afterwards. Right, okay, been on for 15 minutes. Let's put it out, have a look, see what we got. It's going to be very hot still. It's still 72 degrees in there apparently, so oh, that is hot. If I hold it by the valve down, what I tend to do when I bring it out, hold on, let's get my hose. All while things are still expanded, I get my, let's put my glasses on, hold on, bear with me. Goggles on, blow it all out. Right, it's cooled down enough for me to hold now. I'm going to go through all the airways that I can. There we go. Let's take that off of there for a minute. And as you can probably see, it comes out looking like a new carburettor. And you can guarantee that all them fine holes that are inside, all them little avenues and ways have all been cleaned, because they've been ultrasonically cleaned, not just normal vibrations, ultrasonic. That's the reason why these do such a good job at a molecular structure. They actually vibrate, and that is absolutely perfect now. So I'll get out the other bits. I'll just leave that for soaking a minute. Hold on, let's just tip that out. Including the little jets as well. So I'll take my jets as well. And even them, I'll blow them through. My emulsion tube, which is very important. And a couple of other little bits I've got in there. And the last thing in there, if I can find it, I've not put my hands in there. Where is it? Tell you what, just lift the basket up. There it is. Is that cruddy old float bowl, as you can probably see there. There you go, absolutely fine. Back to a serviceable carburettor. Right, so I'm going to put this car back together now. You haven't really got to see that, and I'll see you when we're ready to put it back onto that engine. We'll get it in here, we'll assemble it, and we'll try and get it put in the deck. So I'll see you shortly. Right, okay then, let's get this thing back on. We've got this little block to go on first. We then got that heat plate shield thing, whatever it is. Okay, so that goes on like that. I actually don't like that as a sealing surface, going back onto that carburettor like that. I think that could provide us with an air leak, which would affect our running, because that surface, as you can see, is broken away there. So what I'm going to actually do, I'll actually make a new gasket. Lucky enough, I've got some gasket material which I keep in my drawers down there, which you can't see. So all I'll do is I'll draw an outline around there on that gasket sheet I've got. I'll cut it out and actually make a new gasket for it. Right, okay, as you can see, I've made loads of gaskets. I do use this quite a lot, this stuff. Right, okay, so that's going to be going on that way. And all I need to do is mark my holes. Little scriber there, and I'm just scribing the holes just to give me a mark. So I can see them now, and I've also got these hole punches that you can probably see here, which I've used on many occasions. There you go, that one's going to do the job. And all I'll do then is I'll punch my holes out like that. And hopefully our holes will line up. So that would go on that way, but that means in the middle we need the big Venturi hole. So I just rub my finger over there. It should leave a ring, and then get one of my bigger hole punches. Like that. And as you can see, there's our gasket made up. So I'll get this assembled now, and I'll just ensure that I put that on there like that, and that creates the proper seal which I'm looking for. So I can get that on there now. Right, so I've just slid my gasket on like that. We'll just hook this card back up there. Hopefully slide that over there like that. We need to get our little spring back on, and also our arm for our governor. There we go. And that should push back like that. And now I know that I've got a good gasket seal at the back there, so that's fine. I'm happy with that. This gasket goes back on here like that, and hopefully you can see that that's all back together now, and it's as it should be. So I'm going to put the airbox back on there, get the nuts tightened up on it, and then we'll spin it around and change the oil. Right, okay, that's the oil drain now. Bleeding good tool, that. Don't know how I managed without one. And just stick that back in the top there. Put it over in the corner. As you can see, I just tipped the engine up there just to make sure I got every little bit out. Right, okay, that's good. Right, normally put 30 SAE 30 in here, 30 weight oil, but I'm just using some old engine oil. Reason being is because we've got there's no oil ways as such to speak of, so normally about half a litre you put in here. Let that go down, and then we'll have a dip. Again, when you're filling these up, always make sure your engine's on a level playing field. Alright, there we go, right on our top line. How about that? I'm happy with that. So that can go back in. I'll spin it round now. Let's put that back over there, we don't need that anymore. And we'll take out the spark plug. I think that'll be 16mm, yes it is. Again, as I say, I don't think Gary's actually looked at this at all, so this is the first time. It's a champion plug in now. I don't think I've got any of these anyway, so let's just hope that the plug's okay. This can normally tell whether it's been tipped up the wrong way or it's been overfilled and it's been running very rough, or the air filter's blocked. You can normally tell by the colour of the plug. It's a little bit sooty. I wouldn't say it was oily as such, so there's a very good chance for it being sooty. There's a good chance it's been running with a dirty air filter. So we can give that a clean up with a wire brush. So again, maintenance of a plug is pretty straightforward really. Just make sure they're clean, make sure there's no debris, and also make sure that the centre electrode isn't worn down too much. And if you want, you can check the gap. The gap should be about 30 thou on these lawnmowers. So I've found a 29 thou, and 29 fits in there just perfectly. So normally about 28 to 30 thou I think you'll find for most lawnmowers anyway. They normally come pretty much set out of the box at that sort of feeler gauge, at that sort of gauge. So there we go, I'm happy with that. So we can put that plug back in and call that plug sorted. Bearing in mind we haven't got any spares anyway, so we'll only know if it's firing once we go to try and start it up. So that's that. Just nip that up. There we go, like that. I'm not going to put the cover on yet, so we'll leave that as it is. Right, I think we're basically ready then to put the engine back into the lawnmower. Right, I'm going to bring this over here and just plonk it on the top there. Just sit it there for the moment. Where's our holes? Let's have a little look. Do our holes line up? Yep, they appear to. Right, okay. I'm going to get the nuts and bolts now. We'll fix this down, and then we'll start assembling the top half of it. Right, okay then, so I've got it up in the air, as you can see. I want to get the belt on now, which can be a little bit tricky. Let's get it under there first. Get it on the back pulley. Because that back pulley is under tension, you see. And it just so happens I've put my jack right where I need it. There we go, let's get it over there like that. Now I've got it over there like that, let's put that back up there. And now hopefully I should be able to slide my belt back into the pulley. And there we go, that's the drive belt. There we go, back on. Right, okay then, so I've cleaned up the blade and given it a coat of paint. Now I've sharpened the blade, I'll show you that. As you can see, look, I like to paint them up and just leave the edge nice and clean, as you can probably see there. And the reason why I do that, the reason why I paint them is because 9 times out of 10, when someone comes and looks at a mower and they lift it up, they probably don't know what they're looking at, but if they see a new painted blade, because you've said you've balanced and sharpened the blade, for example, you can't normally see the chamfer on the blades because it's the chamfer of the blades that faces upwards. So all they see is the bottom of the blade, and if they see it's been nicely painted as well, they just know that, oh, the blade has been probably maintained. But I've got to balance this blade. I should have actually done it before I painted it. Now, if you haven't got a balancing tool for lawnmowers, lawnmower blades, to find out if they're even weight, what you can do is just get a screwdriver and the hole through the centre, just put it in the centre, and it should be level. Now, if I let go, as you can see, it's tipping down to one side. Now, that indicates that this end is heavier than this end, and as a result of that, there's a very good chance of when we put this lawnmower and start it up, it could vibrate, give you a very similar feeling to like the crank's bent as well. So that is way too heavy on one end. So I've got to take some more meat off of this edge, for example, and hopefully then that will balance up. As you can see, look, it's a straightforward thing. You can buy little triangle things that sit on the worktop and they balance the blade that way. Just by putting a screwdriver there, the edge, it's tipping down that way. So I'm going to grind some more off of this edge right along now. Just keep grinding down there and then we'll come back and balance it. So I'll see you in a minute. Right, okay folks, I use one of these when I sharpen my blades. I basically clamp the blade into a vise and then I basically just go along the edge like that, backwards and forwards, following the original angle that was there. And anyway, that's what I've done there. So I've just taken the bit off of one edge, as you saw, which was balancing, which was hanging down. So that was this edge there, as you can probably see. There it is there. Look, I've sharpened that again. All I've basically done was flatten the top of it and then rework the angle again until the blade was nice and sharp again. So that's that. So let's have a look now. And as you remember, this tipped heavily. Let's put it that way around. That's what it was. This tipped heavily sort of downwards when I balanced this. So let's put the screwdriver again straight through and then let go. And as you can see, it's now balanced. So that means that this now won't vibrate and shake, which is something which you've got to be aware of. So that's the importance of actually sharpening a blade anyway and getting it correct. So if you haven't got a balancing tool, as I said to you, for lawnmowers, you can buy them. They're only a little triangle circular thing, but just a screwdriver does exactly the same job, straight through the middle on the shaft, and then just let go and you'll see whether the blade's balanced or not. Right, so okay, and don't forget the chamfered part always goes up. So the bit that's sharpened faces up so you don't see it basically. So I'm going to put this bolt through here now and get this blade back on. Let's move this prop out of the way and just zoom that up. There we go. And that basically is it. One other sign as well, what you can normally tell is look for equal gaps either side. That will check whether your crank is bent as well. I haven't got that plug cap on, have I? Yes, I have. I should take it off. Oh, it is off. Plug cap's off anyway. So that's the belt back on, as you can probably see there. That's under tension, okay. And that's what I was talking about. When you're looking underneath from, or someone lifting up just to check, you can't see the new edges that I've put on, basically. So if you paint the blade, it only takes a second for it to paint. So people again can see that it's actually been maintained. So that's that. So now I can put all this down. Right, I'm going to have a little organise, get this back over onto the workbench over there, and we'll start assembling this now. So I'll probably put you on time lapse for that. I'll see you in a minute. Right, okay, back together. Basically, I'm down to the last knockings now. I've just got to put the air filter back in and the cover for the air filter. I did change the pull cord, as you can probably see. I've put a new one on there. It's a larger one. How does this go on? See, I never took this apart, you see, so Gary took it apart, but it's pretty simple, really. There we go, all back on. Now, I don't know about the carb, whether it's set up yet for the idle adjustment, although it has got a speed controller up there and obviously a choke on. Can't quite remember what way the choke is on, but we'll work that out as we come to it, because there's normally a label on there, but there's no label on there. Right, okay, then let's try and put some fuel into her. I don't need to go too mad. Right, okay, I think that'll do. Right, cap back on. And let's get it outside. Oh, I did forget to put the exhaust on, so let's do that now. I thought I'd come out here and do it because it's actually warmer out here than it is inside the log cabin, believe it or not. Alright, just put the cover back on. Just plonk them back on there like that. As I say, that's the thing when you've taken something apart, or you haven't taken something apart and someone else has done it. It's sometimes a bit of a chore remembering what goes where, because you've not taken it apart, you see. There you go. Happy days. Right, okay, that's it. Let's get it on the floor and test it out. Let's put the basket back on. Drop the old basket back on. Right, so hopefully got the new spark plug in it now. Let's see if we can get this started. On choke. Well, there we go, there's another one done. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget to check out my other videos on my playlist. Also check out my Butler's Empire channel, also my Retro Hacks channel as well, where I normally do some behind the scenes stuff, so you know, you'll get to see stuff which you don't normally see on the Retro Restore channel. Thanks very much, hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next video, and until then, bye for now.